Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. We have a letter that came into customer service from Lynn Schenk. And Lynn says, Don, I enjoyed this video on the launch angle. However, my problem is just the opposite. When using a long iron or driver, my launch angle is low and boring, which gives good roll, but the ball flight is not good. What am I doing that causes a slow ball flight? I hit my driver 225 to 250, but feel I could gain distance with proper flight angle. Thank you, Lynn Schenk. Okay, this letter is I guess I could say quite personal, because I could have written this letter. All right, all my life I've been a very below average height in my hits, especially on the longer clubs. The longer the clubs get, the lower my launch angle tends to go, and consequently I start losing distance. Now, I've always attributed a good part of it to the fact that I have extraordinarily long arms for my height, which even though I swing vertical, for another person swinging the same vertical swing I am, with my body height and dimensions, with shorter arms, would be technically, I think, a little bit more vertical, which will give him a higher launch angle, because he's going to be coming up a little bit faster, because my width of arc is going to keep slow me down as coming up into the forward swing and getting the ball launched. All right, and I only found this problem as I get longer to the longer clubs. All right, so I mean, this could have been written by me. The yardages for the driver, 225 to 250, are correct, but the only way you'll hit the ball, I think normally you'll hit when you get a better launch angle, you know, barring that you're into the wind, you should get more height. Like, for example, anytime one stands on a tee and decides that they're going to take it over the corner of a bunker or carry a hazard out there, whether it be a water hazard or a ditch or something, I mean, we put the ball up in the air, right? Because we know that the longer it stays in the air, its arc comes down. It's gonna, and when you need carry, you have to carry that object. You can't count on landing in a bunker and it rolling through, or especially landing in water and it rolling out or skipping out. So you want to carry it. So normally we tee the ball up a little higher and launch it. So what's happening to me, and I think that Lynn might be in the same boat, but again, I don't know what his handicap is or what his age is, because he didn't tell me that. But we all know what my age is. I'm 63, and I've been losing distance a little bit, especially this year, and especially since my heart surgery. So, but I had another significant half club loss this year. But I think I might be getting it back for a couple of reasons. The first one being that every time I take this question to Lynn, Doc Griffin, and I say, Doc, I think I need softer shafts, and he says, yeah, maybe you do, but maybe you don't, and maybe it's softer shafts and something else. Maybe you need more loft, especially in your woods, because I've been hitting my 3-wood and my driver really, really low, and my 3-wood off the fairway have been basically billets that you know, if I was on the range, could hit the 250 yard sign, the 200, 225 or 250. It's that low. You know, still, if it was in the air that long, and so he says it's very likely shaft and/or launch angle based on more loft on especially the drivers. Now, he kept me in the same loft, but he built me a new driver, so I think he did some shaft issues here. But I found one of the biggest things that helped me was my ball position had actually gotten too far forward. And so at some point, instead of hitting the ball here and I start hitting it there, I got to move forward a little bit to catch it. And even when I move forward, I'm more on top of the ball, but even though I'm swinging up on it, I'm hitting the ball a little low in the club face. And with the irons, and sometimes even with the driver. Now, the other issue with drivers, and this is what I found. Now, we know that today they're building golf clubs, and especially woods, and the what do you want to call them? The heel and toe weighted clubs with the big cavity backs and everything else. They're building those with the weight on the irons way out to the toe. Because why? Golfers tend to come over the top, right? They're taking too much turn. They're in the sacred barrel ground. They come over the top and they're hitting it near the toe. So they move them out to the toe. So now, if you're a better player and you're staying, and or any player that's making the peak performance swing with the limited turn vertical swing, and you're coming back in slightly from inside to square on the club and then through and up to the tee finish, and you're swinging up, you're going to start moving. You especially with the woods, it's going to change where your impact could be on the club. On the irons, if the weight's out there out near the toe, you're still going to rotate if you're swinging and making a good swing and squaring up the impact and in the mitt and up the tree in the backswing, squaring up an impact and in the mitt and up the tree. You still will hit the ball where the sweet spot is, which will be more out to the toe, but you start hitting it much more consistently. But here's what I found with the driver. Today, because most golfers are coming over the top, which is a very steep angle of attack, they have been moving the sweet spots up very high on the club. All right, and so I found that if I tend to tee the ball up very high, like where I like it, where I prefer to have it to swing up on it, the tendency is it makes it too easy for me to swing up. And if I start hitting the club in the center or a little bit below it, I am losing significant yardage. So what I finally started doing is when I get to a driver, I kind of tee it down kind of like pretty much the old way that you used to hear a lot about, half the ball above the club. All right, as clubs got so bigger and bigger, in size of shape, in terms of the size of the head, 460 cc's, which is, I don't agree with. I think it's way too big. And when you get faces that big, all they're doing is giving you more room to miss the sweet spot and hit a worse shot. But they've also made them a lot higher from the bottom of the club to the crown of the club, and they've moved the sweet spot up quite high again for people coming down and hitting it. And sometimes, if you keep your face really clean on a driver, you can leave somewhat impression, especially on this Alpha driver I got here. It's kind of like shiny black, and if I clean the face off really good, I can see the impression. And I found that I was hitting a lot of balls down in here, down from the center of the shell club, maybe a little bit lower. Now, normally if I hit it really thin down the bottom, that was obvious. But many times I'd hit one just about maybe dead center or just slightly below center of the club from top to bottom, and it would feel relatively solid, but it's got that low trajectory, and naturally a low trajectory doesn't stay in the air as long. The sooner it hits the ground, there's more shall we say, ground slowing the ball down than it slows down in the air, right? There's more resistance through grass, especially if the grass is a little bit thicker and wet, and especially when you get towards the rough. The point is it gets killed quicker. In the air, there's less resistance in the air. But I found that when I teed it lower, I stayed with the shot that a little bit longer, and when I started hitting it up a little bit higher on the club face, a little bit above center, which is where the sweet spot is on this, I get a better launch angle, and bam, it goes a lot farther. The other thing I found was, as I said, I believe I said earlier, I had the ball up a little bit too forward, so I was always doing this a little bit, which kind of bottomed my club out a little bit too long, and it wasn't coming up as quickly. So you could check your ball position that it didn't get too forward, but maybe start if you're an older golfer, your club head speeds are getting down, and you've lost club head speed in the last few years, especially with a driver. You might need to go from whatever you're using. If you're using a 9, you need to go to a 10 or a 10.5. If you're using 10.5, you might think about going to 11 or 12. And almost all these companies make 12-degree drivers or 12.5 drivers. Now, the key is the better launch angle puts it in the air, except for into the wind, you will get better distance, right? We're trying to hit over that corner of the trees, or over a bunker out there, over a ditch or a lake. You put air under the ball and you launch it. Just like with a hose here. If I'm watering my flowers and I got 1 or 2 more flowers left and my hose won't go any farther, I don't lower the hose, I raise it a little bit. Now naturally I can raise the hose enough and water myself, over the head, or lower it too much and water my toes, but at some point I will get a better arc that'll go a little bit farther for the power of the water coming out. So again, it's all based on the power, the energy that's applied, and getting the proper launch angle. So check out these 3 things. So Lynn, I think that as far as the loft goes, or your club head speeds, you might need to get to a good fitter to get that checked out, especially if you're needing softer shafts, or your shafts don't have the load and kick in the right place on the shaft for yourself. A fitter can tell you all that and help you there. All right. So ball position, more loft, and especially with the driver, if you feel like you tend to hit a lot of thin shots because we're trying to swing up to the finish, and check and see your face, or you can put impact tape on it. And remember, most of the big clubs, the big-headed drivers, or almost all clubs today, the sweet spot's up here. Tee a little bit lower, so you stay with the shot a little bit lower as we're staying behind it. And even though we're trying to swing up, and you start hitting the ball up where the sweet spot is, it's a little above center on most faces on clubs, is my experience, okay? So, get that ball a little lower, catch it a little bit higher on the face, and I think you'll feel a more solid hit. It'll sound more solid, and you should see a lot better rocket launched, taking off in a higher launch, higher carry, and actually and when you hit a sweet spot, it'll come off hotter off the club because you hit the sweet spot. All right, well, that's it for the Surge today, kind of talking about Lynn's problem has basically been my problem, and I think I've pretty much cured it. And but check a fitter, check what I just said about the impacts on the club, and see if that doesn't help, because it helped me. All right, well, that's it for the Surge for today, and I'll be talking with you all again soon.